All right, welcome to part 3 of the training. And in this lesson, we will create the energy shockwave spreading across the environment. So I already created my level 9 energy expansion. You can go to Window, Content Browser, and open Content Browser 2, which just makes it easier to navigate the things if you have two of them. And I'll be using this Icelandic rock, which I got under Quixel Bridge. And you can search for Icelandic rock. Then I recommend you download it in medium quality. That was the one that worked best for what we're trying to do. And just download and add it to project. If you no longer have access to this asset for free, you can use any kind of a rock or piece of environment that you can find online. This works with pretty much anything. So I'll just drop it into the scene, and then you can go under Lit, Wireframe, or just do Alt-2. And so the problem is that the triangles are uneven across the model, and that's gonna create issues when we try to scatter particles across this surface. So we need to remesh it in order for it to work better. So Alt-4 to get back to lit mode. And so in your content browser, not in your viewport, over here you need to do Control-D. And so for the copy, I will call it rock_remeshed. And the first one, you can do F2 rock_original. And with the remeshed, Alt-2, and we can go to modeling mode, mesh, remesh. So the reason we made a copy is because once you remesh it, it's gonna change how it looks, and it's gonna kill some of the detail in the little pieces of the rock, especially up here. For the amount of triangles here, let's do 25,000 and accept. Alt-4 to get back to lit mode, and then motion design, cloners, mesh cloner, click, and let's scale up our rock to about 2.25. That's what I did originally, and rotate it 90 degrees this way. Now the cloner needs to be in the exact same position. So I'll just copy the location, go to the cloner, paste, and same thing for the rotation and scale. So the rotation is 90 and scale is 2.25. So reset this 90 and 2.25. Now the default cube is gonna be way too big. So let's do 0.01. And under layout sample actor, you wanna scroll down to rock remeshed, and you can just start increasing the count. You can go pretty high, and you can make it look less uniform by changing the sample data from vertices to triangles, and it'll look more random. You can also randomize the rotation of the cube so they're not all facing the same way. So range, enable that. You can uncheck mirror minimum maximum. And so for the rotation maximum, just give it some random values. Now we can go to materials and give it our MI emissive material. And so they still need to be smaller, and we need more of them. So for the scale, I'll do 0.005. And the count, let's just do 100,000. And so now you can do anything you would like with this based on what we've already learned in this course. Use any kind of effector to reveal them from left to right, from the middle. So for example, I'll create a new linked effector, and I could just set this to unbound, mode to procedural, and circular wave. Set the scale to 0, increase the frequency, and increase the pan. And you almost have that sort of environment scanning effect. I mean, I love how it's following the contour of the geometry. Very fun. Or to have more individual control over where the shockwave happens, we can just set this to offset, set the scale to 0, and the shape to torus. That's what I did in the original. We need to invert type, lower the radius, and lower the inner and outer radius until you get just that wave going through. And you need to hit R and scale it on the z-axis so it covers everything vertically. Maybe lower the inner radius to 0 so they nicely scale up. Move it to the middle of the card. Now, one thing to be aware of with the torus effector is that if you just hit R to scale it, the outline will actually get thicker over time, right? So if I scale it down, it's getting thinner, and then as you scale it up, it's gradually getting thicker because that's how scale works. So really what you want to do is animate the torus radius instead of the scale. So I'll scale it back to where I liked it, which is about here, and then you can click on the little diamond next to torus radius to set a keyframe, which will automatically add it to your sequencer, and you can just go forward and increase the torus radius, and you have the same thin outline going all the way to the end. And in the beginning it can be invisible, so all the way down to 0. And then as always, select the keyframes, hit 4 to make them linear. But when you set the torus radius to 0, it will zero out your inner and outer radius as well. So then what you need to do is set keyframes for the inner and outer radius and increase the outer radius until the outline shows up. And then finally you have it animating and appearing like I did in the trailer. And here you go. So we have the shockwave nicely traveling through the geo. So just put your camera in place, and from this point on, it's pretty much up to your own taste. I'll just make a new cine camera as always. And we can also animate the GPU to kind of fly down. So drop the GPU group in here. Maybe just move the effector out. Set a keyframe for the GPU transform. Go to frame 0, move it up and maybe rotate it. So it just flies down, comes to a stop, and it's causing the shockwave. So right around here, the shockwave should start. Boom. Maybe let's hide some of these metal plates. They're not looking good in this particular shot, so hide that and hide that. So this is what I'm looking at right now. And finally, the lighting. So this rectangular light too, I'll just turn off completely. And this one in the front can just be very subtle, again with that bluish tint. And this one is kind of just like acting like a moonlight. So I'll make it a little bluer and a little less strong, because I really want to emphasize the shockwave. Post-process volume, bloom. Let's increase the intensity. And I want a green light to come on when the shockwave appears. So again, light, point light. Let's give it that green color. Let's move it above the card. Reduce the intensity to about 2 or 3 and drop it into the sequencer. And I want the intensity to increase right around here. So intensity keyframe, set it to 0. And then go forward, and right here it should go back to 3. Maybe move it a little bit, expand it a little bit, and so the shockwave kind of lights up the environment is the idea. So here you go. You can of course add some movement to the camera. You already know how to do that. And we will continue in the next example.